Morning, everyone, and welcome to a Sunday sermon. Each week on a Sunday morning, we try to bring you words of faith. We try to speak with the Holy Spirits and have them come through, and that's who we channel. This morning, we're blessed with the disciple Matthew. He was very close to Jesus. His name adorns the first book of the Bible in the New Testament. So he's here, and I know he's waiting to speak. So let us begin. Hello, everyone. Yes, I was honored to know Jesus. I knew him in person, and I know him on the other side here in heaven. So I am very honored, but I am also have worked very hard to achieve that position. Through the years, I served God in many ways, many lifetimes on many different planets. I served him even several human lifetimes here on earth. Jesus was an incredible human being. There is never going to be anyone that will compare to him. When he walked the earth, all he wanted to do was show love and compassion, help others. He did all that he could to convince the people around him that there was only a single God. As you are probably aware, in those days, the Romans worshiped many gods. That had been the tradition in earlier generations. The Greeks worshiped many gods, so it was natural that the Romans would accept that and move ahead with those beliefs. But Jesus knew that the time had come where humans had got to accept the fact that there is only one God. And that is a fact. There is only one God. There are thousands of religions today on earth, but they all should understand that there is simply a single God, no matter how you want to refer to him. You can call him God, the source, the spirit, Allah, whatever you want to call him, as long as you understand that there is only one. And it is service to that one God that is the most important thing that you will do in your life. Many people think that service to things such as money, power, things that can be used to give personal enjoyment is more important than service to God. They're going to find out, but they will find out the hard way. I thought that service to God, or I thought that service to the Romans was the most important thing I could do. So I was a tax collector. In those days, people really did not like tax collectors because we had a lot of discretion into what we charged, into how we treated people. And generally, being a tax collector was pretty similar to being a politician today. Your politicians, they can do pretty much whatever they want. They can pass laws that increase taxes. We just simply said taxes would be increased, but it's not much different if you stop and think about it. Today, there are people that have incredible powers. They control the lives of millions and millions of people. You're seeing it today in Russia. A dictator has sent 1,000,000 of his men into battle that are not returning, or if they return, are so crippled that the rest of their lives will be very difficult for them. And that's coming from a country that doesn't take care of their veterans. So that man knows what he's doing. He knows that his personal ego is more important. You're seeing egos driving people in many countries. You're seeing it in many of the most powerful countries in the world, that the leaders have these egos that are very difficult, if not impossible, to control. As we watch over here, we sometimes think that impossible egos are a controlling factor in why an individual wants to really run for political office. But there are some really good people. There are people that truly try to understand what's best for the people and try to do what is best. The people control the politics in many of the democracies of the world, and they watch who they elect. They try to understand, but anyone that's running for political office is going to lie to you. That's a sad fact. They're going to mislead you into thinking that they're the ones that will do the best for you. But when they get into office, quite often their egos take over, and that's the end of that. In my time, things were actually fairly straightforward. The Romans really didn't care about what people thought about them. All they cared about was preserving the empire, expanding it. They wanted to wage war so that they could conquer other countries. That would be a sign of power for that emperor. Is that any different today? No, I think not. As I was speaking of Russia earlier, that's no different than what the Romans did. We believe that the guy that's running Russia today thinks that he is as great as some of the Roman emperors, and he uses them as an example. But it's an example that was 2,000 years old. You cannot wage wars today because the weapons are different. The reactions are different. If you use the ultimate weapon that humans have, your atomic weapons, then the other countries will use weapons. And now there's more countries trying to obtain weapons, and they use the excuse that they needed to defend themselves. What is the world going to be when every country has nuclear weapons? Because there will be some idiot that will use one at some time, and that is going to set off a chain reaction that can absolutely remove every human from the face of the earth and destroy all the beauty that God created for you humans. Common sense. You hear that every time that a message is spoken by Barry. Jesus speaks of it on his messages on Wednesday mornings. He speaks that you have to use common sense, and you have to couple that common sense with the love of God, and that's all that's really necessary. You see, God is very simple. His teachings are very simplistic. They don't have to be complicated. What's complicated about living and coexisting with other people? Well, you can make it complicated by hatred. There are many people today that have a great hatred of others, and they're not going to try to get along. All they want to do is kill those they hate. Well, the Romans did that, and you see what happened to their culture. Are you trading with Roman coins today? No, because 1,500 years ago, their culture ceased to really exist. Anyone that pursues power and does not think about the people is going to lead a country to a point where they simply won't exist any longer. Politicians have to change. Politicians have to truly believe in what is right. And now here's a new one for you. Politicians have to show common sense. They don't. If you listen to the news, and I really don't even recommend you listen to the news because you don't know what is true and what is false. But sometimes if you listen to the news, you will hear something that might be true. Can you decipher what is true and what isn't? It's very difficult. We don't blame you for not being able to decipher that. In some countries, everything you hear is a lie, so you won't hear anything true. So that's pretty easy to decipher. But in the democracies, you hear mixed messages. You hear lies from the left, you hear lies from the right. You hear lies from the center. So how do you know what is true? Well, sadly, you don't. You have to use your common sense. You know the difference between right and wrong, so you should have a feeling when people are lying to you. Today, people are very adept at lying. In Roman times, the politicians would lie as well. There was a Senate, but it wasn't really elected, it was just kind of appointed. Today, your offices in democracies are elected, but they're elected on foundations of lies. All politicians lie to you. When you find a good one, you better support it because there are not many. There are people that have devoted their lives to serving God and thinking that going into politics would be a good way to do it. You need to sort those people out. It may take a little bit of understanding and study, but you can figure out who's good and who's bad. Listen to their words. If it's all about them, you got a pretty good clue that they're not really the true people that you're thinking about. If you've listened to Barry and Connie on their shows, you know that they have a prayer, the protection that they use when they're going to do some channeling where it's possible that a negative spirit could come through. They've been well protected by us from the other side, so they really don't have much to worry about. But in that prayer, one of the key words and lines is protect us from our egos. You see, your ego is capable of causing great problems for you. You may think that you're the toughest person that ever lived. That'll work until cancer or some other serious illness comes along. And you realize that maybe you weren't as tough as you think you are. The simple processing of aging will teach you that you're not as tough physically as you think you are. Because your body degenerates as you grow older. Your body is preparing for that final day when you're going to die, for the day that you come back to heaven. You can do things to prolong it. You can keep your body as fit as it is possible, and that is something everyone should do. You have to respect your body because if you don't, it will disrespect you. But the time is going to come that it is your time to go home, and you may be the healthiest person in the world, and you will go home on that day. You see it happen all the time. Sometimes some of the best athletes just simply die. That's because it's their time. It's what it said in their life plan. You may be able to prolong it a bit, but God can always step in. He can always do a miracle and give you more time. But ask yourself this: if you're abusing others, stealing from them, do you think God is going to give you extra time so that you have more time to abuse people? Common sense will answer that one for you. But if you're a good person, if you're doing what God wants you to do, coexisting, showing love, especially teaching the young about God, the young must understand that God truly exists and what he wants of them, because the young become the leaders. If you can affect the young, then your future is very bright. If the young grow away from God, then the future generations will grow away from God as well, and your future becomes dark. It is only through God that light enters all aspects of life. When I was a tax collector, I would look at the people, and truly sometimes I would feel pity, but the Romans, they wanted their pound of flesh. I was given no choice. I had to collect the money. Often that was all those people had, and I knew that when I took that money from them, they would not be able to buy food to eat. Today, it's no different. You see politicians taking money from people, and quite often they have trouble raising their families, educating their children. Now, here comes a kicker for you. Sometimes you see religions force people to give them the money so that the people can't afford to feed their families as well. That is certainly not what God wants. God wants people to support organized religions or faiths, but they want the support to go to the religions or faiths that are truly what they say they are. They want the money to go to helping others. Now, there are many religions that are great at charity. There are many private charities that are wonderful at helping others. You need to be able to sort out the good and the bad. If a religion's telling you that they're the only path to heaven, they're wrong. They're lying to you. They're no different than the politician that tells you he is going to do all that you need to make your life better and then steals all he can. There's really no difference. Your common sense must point out to you what is true and what is false. If you listen to good people, to their messages, if you pay attention to all the messages that you hear channeled from Barry, you'll hear good messages. They're all very similar. They all speak of serving God. They all speak of coexisting. They all speak of showing love. When you hear this message every week, you should understand that this is truly the message that is truth. Any messages that you hear that conflict with what you hear from Jesus or those of us that have served him many times or the Archangels, when you hear a message that is contrary to that, you should know right away that that message is not true. We will never lie to you. We will always tell you the truth, so you don't have a problem sorting out when you're hearing right and when you're hearing wrong. I did many things before I got to know Jesus that were wrong. When I heard Jesus speak, I knew I was making a mistake and that I wanted to reorient my life towards following him. When you hear these messages, you are as close to hearing the words of, or you're as close to being with Jesus as you will ever be. We are with God and we know what he wants spoken. That's why I'm here today. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the words that will always lead you in the right direction. I'm telling you the words that will always lead you to God. It's very difficult not to show anger. It's difficult not to hate. All these things are meant to be difficult, but you have to challenge and you have to beat those challenges. If you're an angry person, all of those characteristics will come out of you. Learn to be happy. Happiness comes from serving God. Happiness will come to you when you help others. Happiness will come to you when you follow the messages and the suggestions that you hear from us. We are never going to lie to you. Truth is the pathway to God. When you tell the truth and you believe the truth and you understand the truth, you will know that the only truth comes from God and from those of us who are very close to him. You hear all the time that Barry never knows what he's going to be saying, and that is absolutely correct. He had no idea what I would speak of today, but he knew I would speak the truth. He knows that by devoting the rest of his life to bringing messages from those of us that know God, that he is bringing you the truth of life. He is bringing you the way to happiness, and he is doing all that he can do. That is all we can ask of anyone, is to do the best that you can do. All of you are capable of serving God. All of you are capable of living a good life, and all of you are capable of finding spiritual happiness. It may be difficult to find physical happiness because of the natural degeneration of the body, the different illnesses, the sicknesses. But you must learn to conquer, not people, but yourself. It is within yourself that all of the abilities that God wants lie. You must control yourself. You must understand good and bad, and you must live the life that will lead you to being found to be a wonderful person when you return to heaven. You've heard about the judgments. It's not to be feared. What's to be feared is that you do things that will harm your future in heaven. That is truly what you should fear. We all want you to live a good life. We all want you to find the happiness that each human can find. We don't want you to be unhappy, depressed. We especially don't want you to draw away from God because you think that He has abandoned you. God will never abandon you. You may abandon God, but He will always love you, and He will never abandon you, and He will always be there when you ask in prayer for Him. So that's the bottom line, folks. As a tax collector, I was looking for the bottom lines, but I found the highest line, the one that leads to God. So goodbye. I thank you so much again for allowing me to speak. We don't get many opportunities to speak directly, but when we get the opportunity, we always try to take it. So if I'm asked, I'll be happy to return again. Just do what's right. Use your common sense and follow God. Common sense, that's the key. Common sense will lead to happiness. And when you do what is common sense, you will be an incredible person. Goodbye. Thank you once again for allowing me to speak. Very good. Matthew's always got a good message. He had his problems, but he overcame them. We all have problems, and we all have to overcome them as the best we can. So thank you so much for listening. Jesus will speak to you Wednesday morning. It's the holy season, so the messages are special. We'll try to do our best to commemorate his crucifixion and to especially celebrate his resurrection. Goodbye, and thank you so much for listening.